Again, Sports Center had to close. Sports Center right now is staffed with, I believe, a total of 3 employees right now, or maybe 4. The library sidewalk pickup continues to be successful. Here are the latest numbers from this morning. 15,503 items have been checked out since we started using that. 5,100 customers, so these are not unique customers. These are basically people who are doing a transaction with us. That can be several people, of course, multiple counts of the same person. Again, what keeps us successful? Here are the latest numbers from this morning. Right now, 15,503 items have been checked out since we started using residents of the city of 5,100 customers. So these are not unique customers. These are and the rest are non-residents, people who are doing a transaction with us. Another idea that we discussed is that maybe several people, of course, that may work in the city of Monterey, but multiple counts of the same person. Numbers again, what successful? Here are the latest numbers from this morning. Now, 15,503 items have been checked out since we started using residents of the city of 5,100 customers. So these are not unique customers. These are the rest are non-resident people who are doing a transaction with us. Another idea that we discussed is several people that may work in the city of Monterey, but multiple counts of the same person. Number again, what successful? Here are the latest numbers from this morning. Now, 15,503 items have been checked out since we started using residents of the city of 5,100 customers. So these are not unique customers. These are the rest are non-resident people who are doing a transaction with us. Another idea that we discussed several people, of course, that may work in the city of Monterey, but multiple counts of the same person. Number again, what successful? Here are the latest numbers from this morning. Now, 15,503 items have been checked out since we started using residents of the city of 5,100 customers. So these are not unique customers. These are the rest are non-resident people who are doing a transaction with us. Another idea that we discussed several people, of course, that may work in the city of Monterey, but multiple counts of the same person. Number again, what successful? Here are the latest numbers from this morning. Now, 15,503 items have been checked out since we started using residents of the city of 5,100 customers. So these are not unique customers. These are the rest are non-resident people who are doing a transaction with us. Another idea that we discussed several people. That may work in the city of Monterey, but multiple counts of the same person. Number again, what successful? Here are the latest numbers from this morning. Now, 15,503 items have been checked out since we started using residents of the city of 5,100 customers. So these are not unique customers. These are the rest are non-resident people who are doing a transaction with us. Another idea that we discussed several people. That may work in the city of Monterey, but multiple counts of the same person. Number again, what successful? Here are the latest numbers from this morning. 15,503 items have been checked out since we started using residents of the city of 5,100 customers. So these are not unique customers. These are the rest are non-resident people who are doing a transaction with us. Another idea that we
People don't wear masks when they're in the act of eating. They're supposed to put them on when they're not in the act of eating, but that doesn't seem to be happening. But what's alarming is to see how close together they're seated. As they expand on sidewalks, they're taking away the sidewalks from the public sidewalks from pedestrians who, if they are concerned about health risk, wouldn't go down those sidewalks without encountering people who are maskless. And As Hans pointed out, we can all avoid those areas, but we can't avoid the consequences of continued spread and escalation of this illness in our community, which this behavior scientists are telling us will cause this escalation, and I don't think it can be taken lightly, and looking at it again in 30 days in the midst of a health crisis is not the answer. So I'm sorry I didn't get through earlier because I am involved in studying social media, and this is a great concern to employees as well who feel that they're being put at risk by non-compliance with the restaurants, by the restaurant owners. And I would just urge you to look at cities like Berkeley that have very clear, strict guidelines for outdoor eateries that must be followed or face revocation of the permit. So I hope you will continue to discuss this and look at it, because it really isn't being taken care of. I hope it will be. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Susan. We appreciate it. Our next caller is Esther Malkin. Hi, Esther.
Hello again. Yep, we're still at this. So I'm going to tell you that I've been in direct contact with staff and influenced a lot of how this renter assistance program has come to be. And I am appalled that no provisions are being made for people who make less than $54,000 a year if they are single, and $62,000 a year if there are two people. These HUD guidelines are part of the reason we have an ongoing existing problem for so long. I get the fact that HUD is going to be participating in the funding of this, but the city needs to separate some funds so that they can cover people who are falling through the gap. The whole reason Monterey Peninsula Renters United was created 3 years ago and has become the voice that it is because of the sole purpose that those people were falling through the cracks because they're being told that they make too much money to qualify for any help. Not that there's really any help to be had when it comes to housing, because there's no Section 8 housing inventory. But I challenge anyone who expects someone to live on those salaries that are being put here and be able to afford to stay here. So I would encourage you guys, this is the first time I've seen these numbers, and I've been working on this particular program by force, that I pushed myself and brought the United Way to the staff and made sure that this was handled in a better way than they started out talking about. And by showing us that these are the numbers of that the very same people who have been the only ones that may have gotten some help from these non-existent programs, because there is no Section 8 housing, is an insult. And those people that fall through the cracks because supposedly make too much money, I want you guys to come up with a formula to show them how they are going to be able to afford living on these amounts that HUD has set. And I can tell you that if you don't get creative and go ahead and find a way, either don't set aside the portion of the funds that are not HUD so that you can cover these people, you will have the homelessness and the problems that we have been warning you about, because this is not going to help a big portion of the people that need it. They fall through the cracks because of this kind of exemption that we always get. Thank you.
Thanks, Esther. And we have a call from also Greg Hanlon. Hi, Greg.
Yes.
Hi, you're live with Monterey City Council. Hello?
Yes.
Yep. Would you like to say something?
Yes. Hanlon, and I'm a resident of Monterey and a homeowner. And I have a problem. I know that there is a agreement between Monterey Disposal and the city. And now specifically, I'm talking about my brown garbage can, which holds 36 gallons. That's not enough now in this COVID-19 era when people are ordering many things delivered. My can will not hold any longer the amount that was that it held before COVID-19. So it's my understanding that other cities like Seaside have an agreement for their trash pickup. I'm not talking about garbage. I'm not talking about recyclable or cuttings, just garbage. That they can have any one of 3 sizes of cans. And I don't know whether they're brown cans or some other color. But what I'm saying is that the city needs to renegotiate the contract that they have for larger cans for residential use, so that they will thereby have bigger ones than 36 gallons that will hold all of the necessary garbage that people have to put out every week. That concludes my talk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we have no other public comment on this item.
All right, then, were there council questions or comments about the city manager's report?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the rental assistance program. Hans, you and I have talked about this. I know that there was conversation around using Salvation Army at a certain point, and that idea was abandoned. And now we're going to do it internal to city staff. And part of the thought that goes through my mind with it is the capacity. And so if we have, and I can't remember, help me remember, is it 3 months worth of rent it can go up to as far as support? Anybody?
We had a question. How long does the rental assistance last? Is that what you asked, Tyler?
Yeah, they can do a max of 3 months worth of rent, right? Okay. So just let's hypothetically say that we get $1,500 rent and they get 2 months worth of rent approved. That's 266 checks that we're going to be cutting. And this is just an example of the scenario. So I'm just wondering the city's capacity to be able to handle that, on top of some comments that I'll share in council comments in regards to a need for us to just look at doing some initial policy work in regards to protections for the renter community in the city. And so if we come to city staff, I'm worried that we're going to get to a point where now staff is too preoccupied with administering a program that we approved, as opposed to being able to focus energy on areas where there might be a need. So I'm not sure what the feelings are there.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate your concerns, Councilmember Williamson. The checks will be always cut by the city of Monterey because these are all our funds, and we always have to control where basically the checks have to be distributed by the city of Monterey. So that is one of the guidelines we cannot rule out. I shared with you during my presentation that I'm fully aware about the concerns about managing that program, and what you're talking about, and what I assume you might be bringing forward to the council, are actually policies that are not created in the housing office. They are created in the community development and planning office. And if you want to create different scenarios for density or for affordability of housing, etc. These are all functions that will be created out of the planning office. The housing office itself, of course, you point that out correctly, will be working on administering the rental assistance program to a great deal. And certain things, other things that we would usually do in the housing program, we simply will not do it. But we also have cut back on some of the programs like Mr. Fix-It or other service grants that we have not issued to worthy service providers. So yes, I admit that there will be offsetting work in the housing office that we will not get to. The things, though, that I know are part of your mission and part of future agendas, I really feel confident that the community development program and the planning office will continue to deliver those products. And again, there's a great deal of legal review also involved with that. So not so much in the rental assistance program. But I hear you, and I want to get on the record, and that's why I said it today during my presentation as well. I'm fully aware of those concerns. I'm fully aware that there might be concerns also in the community that this doesn't get administered correctly, and so I'll promise you a close monitoring for my part on that one.
All right, any other comments, questions? Okay, obviously this is going to be an ongoing discussion and action for us, and we're all crossing our fingers and an effective vaccine will be here sooner than later, and that we see the end of this. But meanwhile, we're compliment our staff on doing everything that they can in our community to keep us safe and try to have an economy at the same time. We have a request from Councilmember Hoffa to agendize a discussion. So I think we'll turn it right over to Alan, if we may. Alan, would you like to introduce this? We do have a report as well, but if you would introduce it, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, in November of 2016, of course, the California voters approved the Adult Use of Marijuana Act. City of Monterey residents approved it at a 69.5% voting rate in favor. At that time, the council chose not to move forward with permitting cannabis businesses in the city. I was on the losing end of that debate, but I understand the council majority at that time wanted to be cautious. There were concerns about public safety and possible crime. And so we took a wait and see approach. In the interim, we've seen Delray Oaks open a successful dispensary. We've seen Seaside open a number. We've seen the Barnyard in Carmel. And recently Marina has moved forward. So I generally don't like to sort of put the council in a position of having to reconsider things positions it's taken in the past. But I think that the landscape has changed a little. And in particular, the impact of COVID on our business and economic environment highlights the need for diversity in our business sector. I think it's highly likely, despite our best efforts, that we will be seeing empty storefronts in the near future. And so this is an opportunity that I would if the council, if there's 3 votes to reconsider our position on legalization of business activity in the city, there is the opportunity to increase jobs and business opportunity as well as city revenue, which we're sorely in need of. We approved with tentatively, I guess you could say, a testing facility at Ryan Ranch. I think it was back in February, and maybe after I'm done speaking, the city manager can speak to this, but I don't believe they've moved forward with that, partly because of concern that we're going to impose additional restrictions above what the state already demands. And I just think we've, you know, if we do end up losing that, we've lost a real opportunity for a lot of good paying jobs at that particular facility. And we need testing, not only for cannabis, but that facility would probably be helping to test COVID, do the COVID test. So I just, I bring this forward. It's something that I think maybe the council is ready to reconsider. And I would ask for your consideration, and hopefully there'd be 3 votes that would want to reconsider.
Thank you, Alan. Anyone want to weigh in at this point? I'll start. Okay, go ahead, Ed, and I'll finish up. Go ahead, Ed, please. Then Dan, then.
I'll be short. I don't want to have to repeat what I've already repeated in past years. No, I'm not ready to consider. I think the playing field has changed a bit in our neighbors, and I think there's a plethora of locations for people to acquire what it is that they need to acquire in our neighboring cities. But I just don't see the need to have it. And I've always made the connection that if you make a decision about the use of what is now legal, marijuana, for the purposes of trying to get more money, then what do I tell my children from the previous years of me being in law enforcement? So from a position of what I did in my career and the experiences that I've had, I have not changed my mind at all, and I would not support it.
Thank you, Ed. Dan, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that this is, as Alan mentioned, this is a different council than it was when it first was brought. And I think at least this council, I haven't made any decisions on it. I think this council at least should discuss it. I think it should come for a discussion. But I would need to know quite a few things first before we even discuss, like staff economic analysis. Where would we propose to have the businesses? Would there be areas that we would restrict them? Would it be medical versus recreational? I mean, there's all these different questions that I would need to be answered. But I mean, I think it at least it's a valuable thing to at least discuss with this particular council.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, please, Tyler.
for sake of time, and I know you want to add some comments, but I'll just go ahead and make a motion for us to agendize and see if we can have a conversation in regards to an appropriate time frame to bring this back to onto the agenda.
If you'll hold that thought, we'll open up public comment, then we'll get back to your motion, okay?
Very good point, Mayor.
Yes. Well, I had a very helpful staff that said public comment. Public comment, do we have any on this, Nat?
Yep, it appears that we do, Mr. Mayor, and the first
Okay.
one, 3622. Hi there. If you could please walk away from your speaker or your TV set. We're hearing some feedback here.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Nat. This is Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
I'm gonna move
Okay, great. Kelly Violini with the Monterey County Fairgrounds.
in the other room.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and wow, you should all be in your jammies right now. But this is Kelly, CEO of the Monterey County Fair and Event Center, and I just wanted to weigh in on this. I don't think it's a secret that myself, my board of directors, who were all appointed by the great governor, are very interested in this topic, and we have always been supporters of, cannabis events in the future, and, just going in and researching what it can bring with revenue to the city of Monterey. So that is all. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Kelly, for calling. And how do you know that we're not in our PJs already? So sorry, I had to say that. Let's hear next from Patrick Phillips. Hi, Patrick. Thanks for calling in. Hello, Patrick. 5850.
Hello?
Yep, hello. You're live with the Monterey City Council.
I hear the council speaking, so am I to speak?
Yes, you may speak now, but you need to move away from your computer set or your television set.
I got it. I want to speak to the issue of the marijuana dispensaries. This is a matter of life and death for most of us who use the dispensaries. So please consider that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next caller is 2999. Please state your name and place of residence, and we'll start the timer. Hello?
Am I on?
Yep, you're on. Yes,
Thank you, Mayor, council members, thank you. My name is Valencia Piccinini, and I stood before you nearly a decade ago, and again in 2014, to encourage the city of Monterey to put an ordinance in place to allow safe access. At that time, we had none. I have been open now just about 7 months, and in Carmel, and the last dispensary to open, we have a state-of-the-art cannabis wellness destination. The local people, as this woman just spoke, that we just heard, it is life and death because it's quality of life. And it has been life-changing for me since 2010. I got out of a wheelchair. I was bedridden with 2 teenage children at the time. And cannabis allowed me, after Stanford sent me there, to create a directive where I did not have as much inflammation, and I was able to create movement for myself. And in place now, I want to allow safe access. I was bedridden with 2 teenage children at the time, and cannabis was afraid of me. I think I was the first one to address that the model needed to be changed. I think that we've done a beautiful job in raising the standard. I believe mine takes it in the state of California to a completely different level. It's a state-of-the-art cannabis wellness center. However, I have pharmacists, I have RNs, I have LVNs, and I have CNAs, which are our patient educators. And the people from Monterey and other parts of the community do frequent this store often, at least once a week, for pain management, for sleeplessness, for different disease states like myself with MS and cancer. And we've been declared a necessity. And I believe, as I stand here 10 years later, that Monterey is losing out on some tax revenue that I think you really need. And so I would love to have it agendized to make a presentation. Monterey was my first choice, and it would be my intention to have another one there, because there is still a depth of the market that has not been reached on the education component. And I believe that we can effectively create that for your community, and it will not be another pop shop. Thank you for your time.
Great, thanks for your feedback. And that is all for tonight for public comment.
All right, well then we'll go back to our good friend Tyler. You were getting ready to make a motion. Now you started.
I got a little excited there. So yeah, so I'll make a motion for us to agendize this, and I'm not sure I'll wait for a second.
Thanks for your feedback.
Add some comments.
And that is all for tonight for
Thank
public
you,
comment.
Mayor.
All right, well then
I'm
we'll
not
go
sure
back to-
what the feeling is as far as getting this back in front
Good
of
friend
us
Tyler, you were
to consider.
ready to
But
make a
given the
motion.
fact,
Sorry.
I got a little excited there. So,
Oh,
in support of this is the
Yeah,
potential
so
revenue
I'll
that could
make
be
a
created.
motion for us
And
to
I imagine
to
the time
agendize
that it's
this,
going to take
and
to get the
I'm not sure
the code to change.
I'll
if
wait
that's
for a
the
second.
Thanks for your
direction the council
feedback.
decides to take.
And that is all for tonight.
Allowing
public
businesses
comment.
to actually.
all right. Well, then
I'm
we'll
not
go back
sure
to,
property
City
getting
Council.
things going.
That is all for tonight.
Allowing
Public
businesses
comment.
to
Give
have
us-
That is all for tonight. That is all for tonight.
Actually,
All right.
I'm not sure property getting things going.
That is all for tonight. That is all
Actually,
All right.
I'm not sure. Think about tourists as well. When they're coming into town, they're coming to Monterey. We can capture them while they're here, and it can provide us a great opportunity. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity, and I'm glad to see that there's some support to at least have the conversation.
Okay, good. A couple of things come to mind is one, I think if we do decide to agendize this, we can find out what the revenue potential is, get some hard data. And then secondly, I've moved on this because I was talking to a doctor who told me that because of cannabis, he had elderly patients on opioids, basically bedridden, but with the use of cannabis and just out of it basically. And with the use of cannabis, it was almost miraculous how these folks got off some of these heavy drugs and were able to become functional again. And the doctor had any skin in the game, wasn't making any money on this, but it was a very convincing argument, I thought. But then again, when we agendize this, this is just an agenda item, doesn't mean we're all going to approve it, but it's certainly time to get the data on the table and look how our neighboring folks are, and has there been an increase of crime? Has there been an increase of any kind of activity that we're not interested in? But it's time to have that conversation, in my opinion.
Mayor,
It's an
sorry,
argument,
if I may just
thought.
kind of go back to that as far as the timing. I'm
Yes.
thinking that the first meeting in September may not be ideal because I know that we pushed the ADU discussion to then, and I imagine that because we're not going to be having a council meeting until then, that first meeting might not be the best. But I'm thinking,
Right.
could we look at the second meeting in September?
Sure. Well, we can see how. Let's ask our staff to shoot for that, okay? Because if we don't meet for 3 weeks, you see what our meetings are like every 2 weeks. If
It's
we don't
fun,
meet
Mayor. Come on.
for a month, that's okay.
Yeah,
Let's.
I just want to say it comes down to choices. I've said this before. Whatever the council sets as the priority, staff will march and do that. But please don't expect that we have 10 number one priorities that we can kick
Right.
out every 4 to 6 weeks. And I hope you understand that. This is a complex topic, and it's
Mhm.
not that simple to pull the data out of the internet to say what our revenues are. And absolutely, we will work on that, but other priorities then will fall to the wayside.
Got it. All right. So we do have a motion and a second to agendize this. Roll call, please.
Let's see, Councilmember Smith.
No.
Okay, Councilmember Hoffa,
Yes.
Councilmember Albert,
Yes,
Councilmember Williamson,
Yes.
and Mayor Roberson.
Yes. Thank you. It's 11:02. We really should adjourn unless someone has a burning council comment or city manager report. I think it's time. Tyler, something briefly?
Well, Alan, how are you feeling about it? So
Maybe we could each limit our comments to a minute or less.
okay, we just wanted to provide some feedback. So as you all may have heard, I invited Alan to join me at my last talks with Tyler to have a discussion around social justice, just to have a dialogue with the public around the recent events in regards to racial inequities. And I would just kind of quickly say here that I think it was a great turnout. We got some really good public dialogue going on. And I want to kind of do quick highlights of some of the feedback that we received. But before I go into that, I just want to identify that what I'm sharing isn't the proposal that Alan and I are giving. It's just the feedback that a summary of the feedback that we received. So let me just kind of quickly go through. Sorry, let me just find the right document here. The feedback. So the first thing was, as a starting place, the possibility of passing a resolution on diversity, inclusion, and equity. And the idea there is that by having that resolution, it could really set the framework of all the other policies, so it can help push us through what the direction is we go in regards to the other issues. And that can include governing for racial equity, and housing related issues are essential. The second piece was reassessing how we present our history. So perhaps tasking the city's Historical Preservation Commission with making recommendations to the council on how we can acknowledge our history better in the city. There was a representative from the Esalen tribe in the dialogue, and I sent him a follow-up email afterwards, and their council was actually going to meet and discuss recommendations that they could provide to us officially. So we're still pending that response, but that's an opportunity for us to actually engage our citizenry in some of the local commissions. The third one was HR practices, diversity and inclusion. That includes training and some other elements. The fourth element is police oversight. So the idea of having more town halls specifically focused on policing, panel discussions with various subject matter experts. Another element of that is police transparency and accountability. There was ideas of a public human relations commission, or maybe just the council taking a bigger role in that regard. So there's some elements associated with that. The next one, number 5, is leveraging resources with neighboring jurisdictions. So there's this organization called Cahoots, where they provide some non-emergency services that can help alleviate some of the pressures that we put on our police department. And so there's this idea of creating a nonviolent response JPA. There was a lot of ideas about kind of working more regionally in that regards. The sixth one is a list of minority, looking at Black, Asian, Latino, and I guess the list doesn't necessarily end there, own businesses, and possibly posting that on the city's website. And then the last element here that I have is actually the cannabis funding. So if we decide to move forward with that, I think it's important for us to consider a conversation on what is it that we plan on doing with that funding. So some ideas that came up was emergency rental assistance, affordable housing, obviously something to kind of give back to the underserved community. So that was my quick try. I know that was probably over a minute, but that was kind of my quick way of saying it. I'll just pass it to Alan if he has anything addition to add to that.
So I think we need to share the written document with the rest of the council, but that was a good summary, and it's about beginning a conversation with the broader community and the staff and the council to figure out how can we just make better, make Monterey even better at being an inclusive city that I know we all believe and want to achieve. So I think in the future we would want to have other study sessions on maybe some of those topics.
And I would just say one more thing for my council comments quickly here, which is I think there's a need for us to dive in a little bit deeper here. And I was referring to this earlier in the meeting in regards to housing related issues, particularly for the rental community. So I'm thinking that it might be appropriate for us to look at a across the board ban on rent increases during this time. Given that, I mean, to me, just the idea of raising somebody's rent right now, just that idea blows my mind when people are barely able to pay their rent. So I am going to put an agenda report together, submit that to city staff, and see if I can get that on the agenda so that we can discuss it at a later date. But for the September 1st meeting. So I know there's a lot going on, but I think that a lot of people in our community are hurting, and I think we need to take some quick action in that regard. So I just kind of wanted to share that update with you all. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you for your comments and your summary. Appreciate that. Other council comments?
Yes,
Councilmember
Mr.
Ed?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I want to give a real quick, brief report. As part of my role in serving the council on AMBAG, I'm on the Monterey Bay Sanctuary Advisory Council. And then we had a subcommittee meeting on Monday. We discussed what has currently gotten to the 4-year, 5-year mark of working on the sanctuary management plan. It's earmarked as an every 10-year journey and cranks out about every 5 years. We're only about 4 years behind in finally getting to the draft plan. So I would encourage those that are interested in seeing what proposed new regulations are there. It's management plans the draft is on the NOAA site for Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. So you can look at that. I think it's been an exhaustive study with a group of collaborative groups up and down the state working on that, and the management plans in draft form. It'll now go out for public comment. I think as a harbor city like Monterey and Santa Cruz, we're very satisfied with the progress that it's made on the proposal for dredging. There's actually some conversations going on with artificial reef, and so bringing some science for evaluations for several of those projects. So the city council has written position papers in the past. It seems to have helped. We've had a good conversation over the last 5 years. The draft plan now moves ahead for public comment. So I'm very encouraged with the contents of the 500-page report, and we went through that on Monday. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is I serve also on the TAMSI board, on rail, on exec, and the regular board. And we introduced back in July a new attorney that represents us, and we congratulated the retirement of Kay Ryman, who's been in the business of representing TAMSI for on and off for probably 15 years. So she's part of the county council team that's retired, and we have a new attorney that represents us that is off and running. I think she'll be absolutely great. Deputy County Counsel Catherine Hansen, who has been around a while, has a lot of great experience. So she joins to represent TAMSI at the county council. So just want to report on those two agencies that I serve on those committees, and encourage people to go to the sanctuary website and look at the management plan draft and comment back as it moves through its process. And one last thing, I really look forward to the point when we can get our numbers better, and the governor adjusts the shelter in place, and we get back together and have a meeting in person at the dais under whatever conditions it takes. I'm looking forward to doing that because it's 11 o'clock. We do these meetings all week long and every other week for council. And this is just no way to conduct business. It's no way to conduct life, and we're tired of it. Okay, we just got to be patient a little bit longer. But I want to focus those folks that were looking at the data on COVID and the percentages. and look specifically at the peninsula. And I want to say, for those that are following the rules and you're doing what you're supposed to do, the numbers are reflected very well on the peninsula and especially Monterey. Thank you to the Monterey residents that are, you're educated, you're behaving yourselves, and the numbers are within control in Monterey. But keep it up. Don't give up. Stay with it. Stay safe. And that's it.
Okay, Darren, please.
Okay, Mayor, yeah, Nat, give me 1 minute, put me on the timer.
I'm happy to do that for you.
Okay, wait a minute, hold it, let me get ready.
Time up.
Go. So I do sit on the Monterey Regional Waste Management District, and I just thought I'd like to talk some trash real quickly here.
Ooh.
I know, I was gonna say garbage, but I thought trash, hey, I'm in 1 minute. So we did approve a budget in July, and they do have $4 million deficit. And this sounds familiar, but they are staff reductions and wage cuts, but they do have a balanced budget. They did temporarily close the Last Chance Mercantile, which a lot of people, it's very popular, a lot of people like. There is a tip fee increase in solid waste and green waste and biosolids. But one thing I do want to mention is that there's an increase in green waste recovery customers, but that's not us because we're under a franchise with Monterey Disposal. So whatever you hear out there, there is no increase for Monterey Disposal. 3 seconds. The last thing is, thanks. The last thing is, now you guys got me flustered. The last thing is talking about economic recovery. I would really like a report on the RFPs of our four-door properties, because I know that was a long time ago, and it'd be nice to know whether we can develop some economic growth out there. So I'd sure like to see those RFPs. That's it. Did I make it?
Yeah, well, you with 15 seconds to spare.
You bet. I could talk fast.
Yeah, you did a great job. City manager reports.
I have just a dozen or so. I would ask Nat to put a 10-minute timer up, please, and I will hurry up to get through that. No,
Yeah,
Mr.
right.
Mayor, I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay, good. Well, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and let's continue to take care of each other. Meeting adjourned.